So, Teresa,
Yes.
tell us about this Ride for Life and who it benefits. What is it?
So Ride for Life is supporting Lovely Life, which helps women and children that are in a crisis pregnancy with support, housing programs, education, mentorship. And so all of the funds from the Ride for Life are going to go towards helping these women to get engaged in the housing, the programs, the education, and mentorship. And it's helping her, and it's helping her preborn child. And we know that bikers, because I'm a biker, we know that they love to ride for benefits, and especially to benefit women and children. So it's open to anybody that has 2 wheels, 3 wheels, 4 wheels. Sorry, you're going to have to do your own thing. Maybe you volunteer. But yeah, it is open to anybody and everybody that rides. And it's a low entry fee. You know, it's $20 per bike. And then if you have a passenger, it's $5. Yeah.
Now, where do they go to register?
So they'll go on to the Lovely Life, LOVLI life.org website. There is a pop-up there. There's a QR code. You go right to the QR code and you register. Now, if you're somebody who doesn't like to ride, but you want to support it because of who we're supporting, you can become a vendor or you can also sponsor. And there are different sponsorship opportunities as well.
And where does the ride start from?
So we're staging at Freedom Church in Bel Air, which is 1705 Conowingo Road. And kickstands, registration is at 10. Kickstands are up at 11. We're doing a scenic route, 2-hour round trip. We come back. There are going to be food trucks, music, time of fellowship, and just a good time.
All right, when you say a 2-hour ride, so it's not just Hartford County. Was it like up in the PA?
We're likely, I have not gotten the official route from the road captain yet.
Okay.
Who is from CMA. But it's going to be going up to Cecil County and then back.
Okay, that's going to be a nice ride.
It is. And
God,
October
I still have my
3rd,
bike.
it should be enough, you know, that the weather is agreeable. And the rain date is going to be October 10th if for some reason it doesn't work out on the 3rd. So
those of you listening, you know what I'm going to say. Get the bike out. It's not, look, I mean, a lot of people do it in January. There's a big one in January that people do. So they can do this. October, it's the fall. It's going to be a beautiful ride.
Yep.
It's for a good cause. So get out there and support Lovely Life.
Yes, come on. Bring it on.
Coming to you from the Freedom Federal Credit Union Studios, Hartford County Living presents Conversations with Rich Bennett.
Slow pitch or fast pitch?
It's probably the least sexy part of the organizing. It's okay. No. The truth is,
I have a special guest back who was on before, Christina O'Mara from Sea of Hope Foundation. Christina's brought a special guest in with her today, and we're going to hear her story because when Christine was on before, actually it was Tammy that brought you in, right?
Tammy was the one that brought me in. No. So it was...
Tammy told me about you.
Tammy told you about me, but it was, oh my gosh, why am I blanking on her? From Hartford Magazine.
Oh, Sandy?
Sandy
Capanos.
No.
No?
The anchor from WJZ.
Oh, Christy Breslin.
Christy.
Okay.
Christy's the one who told me to reach out to you.
Okay.
And then that's how we got to talking. And Tammy, we just happened to meet by chance at some other function.
Oh, and I asked Tammy to co-host,
right.
Not even
knowing. Yeah.
Wow.
So small world.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how we started the conversation, and that's how we did our first interview.
Well, for those people that for some reason didn't listen to that episode, tell them what Sea of Hope Foundation is.
So the Sea of Hope Foundation is a nonprofit organization that supports families who've suffered from infancy, pregnancy, and early toddler loss. And we provide financial assistance for funeral costs. We host support groups every month. We provide bereavement boxes to the hospitals. We just donated our very first caring cradle to a hospital.
Oh, wow.
We were very excited about that. And we offer a bereaved siblings scholarship program called the Wave of Promise. It is for siblings who have lost siblings either that have come before or after them due to pregnancy, infancy, and early toddlerhood loss. And they are 2 separate scholarships in the amount of $800 each that go to their continuous education.
Nice.
So that's what we do, among everything else.
I have to ask you, what is a carrying cradle?
A carrying cradle is a device. A more known device is called a cuddle cot, but
Okay.
a cuddle cot is made in the UK. The carrying cradle is made right here in the United States. It's a device that hospitals use to help families spend more time with their babies who have passed away. It slows down the process of rigor mortis by using a cooling system.
Oh,
so
wow.
it looks like a bassinet or a cradle, and the refrigeration unit is attached to it. So you wouldn't know that that's what's under there. It just looks like a standard cradle. And there's a cooling mat and a cooling pad so that it gives that like dome of
Right.
cool air. So it slows down that process. So families can have more time with their child. They can bring in photography to come in. Just like Now I Lay Me Down as a nonprofit that sends photographers out to hospitals to take photos for those families. So it gives them a little bit more time to grieve and to process the loss that they've had.
Is that something pretty new? And when I say pretty new, within like the last 10 years or so?
I would say they've been around. So carrying cradle is newer than cuddle cot. Cuddle cot has
Okay.
been around for a while. Their units are a little bit more complicated than the carrying cradle. Cuddle cots are a tubing cooling water system that hooks up to a
Oh.
mat that they can take the baby out and hold the baby with the mat.
Right.
But there's a lot more things that make it parts go bad. Things can be messy. So we felt that one unit that had everything all packed in and was made here would be much better. And we found out when I did place the order for it that Carrying Cradle makes notes and documents in their system of which hospital it goes to so that they can follow up with the hospital to make sure that everything is working correctly. And I found out from the hospital that we donated it to that some hospitals don't accept outside of the country's equipment. So if we would have purchased a cuddle cot, we may not be able to donate it to a hospital because it's not made here within the United States.
I don't think something like that was around when we lost Maggie.
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was 2000.
And if it was in its first developmental stages.
But I love that. That's a
Yeah.
great idea.
So we've purchased our very first one and donated it to MedStar Franklin Square.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So for those of you listening, I talked to Christine. I kind of put her on the spot, but I think it's a great idea because of all the people that she comes in contact with Sea of Hope Foundation. I thought it'd be a great idea for her to bring them in and hear their stories, just like Wendy does with Rage Against Addiction, to hear people's stories. And I'm actually going to turn it over to Christine so she can introduce our guest. We could say our guest. Our guest, because I'll mess up the name and call her Julie or Valerie again, and it's not even that. So who did you bring with us today? Who did you bring with you today?
So today,
wow, rented lips here.
So today I've brought one of my wonderful committee members, Kaitlyn Hogancamp. And our story began before her story began.
Yes.
Before her story even began. So how I met Kaitlyn.
Okay. I was going to say, wait, I was getting confused there. Okay, go ahead.
Right. So her story, how we met was actually through her mom.
Yes.
And in the most non-conventional way. At the time, my 14-year-old now, who was, I think 4 years old at the time.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, we took him to a trunk or treat at John Carroll High School. And her mom and her sister Christy were on a truck that was decked out in all Disney. And I was a huge Disney fan. And I was like, oh, I love your setup. It looks amazing. I said, are you part of this group that's on Facebook? And she said, yes, I am. And I said, I am too. So we started talking and she's like, I have this daughter that works for Disney and and I should introduce you to each other and this, that, and the other. And I was like, okay, this sounds great. So fast forward a little bit. and I had lost Ariella.
Right.
And we decided we were going to create the Mermaid Run and the Under the Sea Bash. So I was like, okay, we need vendors. So at that time, Kaitlyn became one of my very first vendors. Yes. I reached out to her specifically and said, hey, I'm throwing this event together and I think you would be a perfect fit.
Yeah, she's like, your mom. Yeah, your mom said that you create a bunch of stuff and like, I feel like it's the right vibe. Like, is it something that you'd want to do? And I was like, absolutely. Give me the details.
What kind of stuff were you creating? So
at the time, I was mainly doing home decor and painting. And like, I would do a lot of custom work. Mm-hmm. I would do commissions for different paintings. I've done them for tribute events. I've had a few things go to different auctions. I've done a lot.
So when she said, she's like, yeah, I'm on board. And I was like, okay, great. I have my very first vendor. We're going to get this moving forward. So we hosted the Mermaid Run and the Under the Sea Bash, and everybody loved it. And Kaitlyn loved it and had a great time. And then I was already with another nonprofit organization, and I was in the process of starting the Sea of Hope Foundation. And in that time frame, Kaitlyn, who will definitely share her story because I know she will, unfortunately had suffered a loss. And she came to me with just needing some support, needing to find that support.
Yeah, getting connection and community.
Yeah.
It was vital at that
time.
And
so the original meet and greet with us became so much more after our original story had began, and then her story took a new path.
Stronger bond, almost like sisters.
Yeah. So much.
Well, and it was one of those things where like we always joke, it was definitely a fated meeting because how did we come even into each other's circle? So like she was saying at the time that she got introduced to my mom, I was currently working at Walt Disney World. So I'm a former cast member. I absolutely loved working for the company. The thing that brought me up here was that my daughter was born and I had had complications during her birth. So because I wasn't medically cleared to return to work, we wound up coming up here to live with my parents and then just fell in love with the area and wound up staying.
Oh, so you're not from here originally?
No, I'm originally from Chicago. So I know. I said I've lived in multiple
I'm not from here
states.
originally either.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Chicago, about 45 minutes south in Will County.
And I was born in New York. I lived in New York until 1999, and then my family moved to Florida, and I lived in Florida from 99 all the way up until 2008.
And I, in high school, moved down to Florida because my dad had a job transfer, and that's where I met my husband. We went to college together at University of North Florida. I ended up in the college program with Disney. Then I started working for them full-time before coming up here.
But your parents moved up here.
Correct. And that was for a different job transfer. Oh, yeah. Okay. So the fact that we've even met in general is absolutely insane.
Story,
I don't have enough pins for this now. Holy cow.
A lot of red yarn.
Yeah. It's the craziest story in the weirdest way, but it's so...
But it was meant to be.
It was meant to be, because some days there's like, I need somebody who can read my brain, and Kaitlyn reads my brain 9 times out of 10. And then there's times where Kaitlyn's like, she goes off on these tangents, and then I'm like, all right, Kaitlyn, come back. And then I'll go in the other direction. It's like, all right, Christina, come back. So
yeah, we're good at moderating each other.
Wow.
But it's complimentary in good ways.
It is. It very much is. And what's grown from loss has been so incredible to see. Just in itself. And Kaitlyn says so many nice things when she talks about her story to other people. I just kind of sit back and listen to how she explains it. So I'm definitely going to let you do that, because I'm going to sit here and just listen.
Do I need to grab the Kleenex first?
Maybe for you. I've heard it.
Sorry, I don't have Kleenex. Grab a roll of toilet paper.
Whatever works.
Yeah.
So out on this stuff.
So for everyone listening, obviously we are going to be talking about loss. If that is too heavy of a topic for you, that's completely understandable. We just want to share our truth and the story of our children to help keep their memory alive and keep the hope that there's more out there to life, even when it might feel like your world is absolutely collapsing. You have a safety net beneath you. So as Christina stated, we met before my losses. So I'd started off just as a vendor for the Under the Sea Bash.
Wait, but there is more to the story, because I was pregnant with Ariella.
Yes.
The same time she was pregnant with Gemma.
Yes. So with my oldest. So we were pregnant at the same time. So her loss was in April. My daughter was born in June. So that was another way that we bonded was we were pregnant at the same time and talking about
girls.
Yes.
When she announced her gender and then we came later and announced ours, we're like, oh, this is girls, like, you know, girls run the world kind of a thing. And then she went on and had Gemma, and then, or I had lost Ariella, and then she had went on and went Gemma. So that's how that started.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about it. There's a bittersweet element where it's good for Christina to be able to kind of see where Ariella might have been, and like either in development or size, or just having that interaction, but having a bit of that kindredness. Yeah. So that was definitely helpful. But yeah, so that was one of the good ways that we bonded. And then about 2 years later, I wound up suffering a loss without knowing I was pregnant. So how I found out I had been pregnant was I was in the middle of a miscarriage. So it hit me like a ton of bricks because there was that moment of, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. Oh my gosh, I'm not. You know, like it was all the emotions all at once. I wasn't even sure, like I was in so much shock initially. I had no idea what was happening to my body. I had never really had anybody who like had explicitly shared, okay, here are the things you're going to be feeling. Here are some of the things that might be happening. At first, I just thought that it was just something that was natural course. And then I quickly realized it was more than that.
How far along were you? If you don't mind me?
No, that's totally fine. They estimate I was between 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
So
this is before Gemma or after?
This is after. So I'd had my daughter Gemma. She was almost 2 years old at that time. And so I had gone in. I was confirmed that my levels were high, but they were dipping because they went to check. They said they didn't see anything on the interior. So they were like, okay, well, it's, you know, it has been removed. So now you're just going to process for the next few days, come back in. We'll keep a track of your levels, make sure that they're going down steadily, make sure there's no crash, and we'll go from there. So completely passed naturally, a lot to process. But Christina and I think my mom were literally two of the only people I told initially because I just didn't know what to do or how to process it. I wound up telling the rest of my family about a week or so after the fact, but I did not tell a soul outside of immediate family.
I think you told me while we were at the Under the Sea Bash.
Yeah.
I think that's where you were telling me, like, I had a moment to break away to kind of go, and you were just in it and just trying to.
Oh, like I'd already committed and but I didn't realize how hard it would hit me at the event. And then I was like, hey, when you get a moment, I know you're so incredibly busy. When you get a moment, I really need to talk to someone, but I need someone who can understand.
It's so funny how time just opens up and you have that moment where you can actually go and do the things that somebody really needs.
We had like a sweet 10, 15 minute slot where we could talk. And so she heavily encouraged that I reach back out to the organization she was working with at the time, find some other groups. If I needed anything, like she'd let me know. And you know, I was just in still a whirlwind at that time where I was like, okay, was it a fluke? Did something happen? You have a million questions. Was it a genetic thing? Was something just unviable? Like, was it something that I did and I didn't know? And I'm like going through and like trying to explain away to myself why it could have happened while also making sure it wasn't something that I did. I lived with that guilt for a very long time thinking, did I consume something? Did I do something? And the answer really is no. There was nothing that I did that would have prevented what had happened. It was just unviable. My body just didn't take, and it went through its natural course. And again, I don't think a lot of women are prepared for that because no one really likes to have these conversations.
I think pregnancy alone, nobody really likes to have the conversations because when I had my son, you know, they tell you all the good things.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Nobody tells you about the bad things that could happen, that have happened, all of that stuff. It's almost like this everybody's secret until you go through it. And then you don't talk about it to anybody else to let them know, hey, because I feel like you're almost in the mindset of trying to scare somebody out of becoming pregnant.
Yeah, or you're worried you are going to scare someone out of it and having that experience. Like one of the things I half joke, but I am kind of serious about, I will ask people when they're like, oh, so tell me about like your birth stories. And I'll be like, I need to preface, do you actually want to know about real world complications that can arise and have happened? Because I somehow managed to have 4 1 in a million pregnancies. Or do you want me to just explain that I would definitely go through with it again, knowing everything I went through? I said, because those are 2 very different conversations. Because yes, I can share the reality, but I can also share like the positive outcomes that have come from those experiences and how I would not change a thing other than if I could hold my babies, I would. I can't change that, but what I can do is make a positive impact instead. Yeah. So I'm very, very clear, like when it comes to communication with others who are starting their parenting journey, of like, hey, would you like, one of the big questions I get, would you still have gone through with all this knowing what you know now? And my answer is still absolutely. I would never change how my life has gone other than for positive reasons. Right. That doesn't mean that I would take away the things that I have learned from those situations either. Because that information has been invaluable. And my perspective on life too is.
And unfortunately, Kaitlyn's story doesn't end there.
No. So.
Could we back up a minute?
Yeah, sure.
Because when you said you told your immediate family, after you told Christina, and you said your mother?
So my mother was the first person, well, besides my husband, who I told immediately because. I
was going to say,
I told him like, I was literally like, I came out of the restroom and I was like, I think I'm having a miscarriage. And he was like, what does that mean? He didn't even have, know it, no, I mean, we were young, like we had only been married at that point for like 3 years. So like, even though we had been together since we were 15, 16, he had no idea what that really meant because that wasn't what went on in life. It wasn't like a normal checkpoint.
It's not talked about.
Yeah. So he was like, what's a miscarriage? And then I was like, I was pregnant and now I'm not. And he's like, what does that mean? And I was like, well, we're going to be doing a lot of research, together. Wow. But like, I just need to emotionally process what's going on right now.
Now, do you think Gemma, I'm sure she was too young to tell, but does it seem like she could sense something?
There are times I do believe like she had known when I was, and I can get to that in future discussion too. With her, things are a little more complicated because she is autistic. Okay. So she's mostly nonverbal. We're working on it. Her communication skills are getting better and better. But she lives and expresses life a lot differently than most kids. I will say, though, she is very empathetically attuned to others, and she can pick up on that kind of stuff. So she definitely knew something was happening, but I don't think she could fully realize, like, the concept of losing a sibling. Like, I don't think it was quite to that level at that age. But yeah, as she got older, there was definitely a little more recognition. Okay. So about 3 years after my initial loss, I found out I was pregnant. We were elated because we had already been like, we'd put it off a little bit once she had gotten her diagnosis about 4 years old. Okay. And we were like, okay, do we have more children? Do we like reduce what we're thinking? How do we want to do this as parents? And one of the things we were like is, well, we don't want to, we've always wanted 2 kids. So we were like, so we do want to continue trying and we want to at least have 1 more, but we want to make sure we have enough time and energy to be able to focus on Gemma and her needs. Right. So we were like, okay, we're going to have 1 more and then we're done. So found out I was pregnant. This was just before her birth. Like this was in March of 2023. It was March of 2023 because we were going to Disney World. So we found out 2 weeks before a planned vacation with our family to go celebrate my daughter's 5th birthday. So we were going to take her to Disney World for her first time. She had never been before. We wanted to make sure like she could experience everything. Yeah. She could go dress up as a princess, do bippity
5 years old, that's a good age too.
Oh yeah. And that way she could make memories that she would start to remember. Right. So we had been so excited because we found out about 2 weeks before the trip. We were going to tell my family at Disney World because that's where my husband proposed to me.
That's what we do.
There's just a lot of good memories associated with my time down there. So like we got engaged in front of Cinderella Castle, and so we wanted it to be part of our story. I told Rory that I was pregnant with Gemma at Disney World at Magic Kingdom, so we were going to continue that.
And she has a very special place in her heart for the House of the Mouse.
I do.
Well, I have to ask this. What cast member were you?
So I started off in recreation. I initially was a lifeguard, and I did that for the first part of my college program. When I extended, I moved into what's called main entrance operations. They also call it MEO. that is like helping out in the parking lot, driving the trams, which is a total blast. I loved that. We got to do the spiels on the back, help with safety, making sure people got in and out of the parking lot okay, which doesn't sound fun, but it was a blast.
I was going to say, when you say cast member, I'm thinking you're dressing up like Minnie Mouse or something.
So everyone who works for Disney, at least in the parks, is called and referred to as a cast member because we are all putting on a show.
Oh.
So we are all part of the cast.
They're not employees. They're all cast members.
They are all cast
Whether
members.
you are a cast member dressed up as a face cast member or a...
Yeah, there's fur characters, there's face characters. Right. Those are the individuals that you will meet, and we refer to them as friends of a character. So friends of Chip or Dale, friends of Mickey Mouse, friends of Cinderella, or that's how they're referred to.
Okay, gotcha. I think I gotcha.
So they went. She was on planning to go to take Gemma to Disney.
Yes, so we were planning to take Gemma to Disney World for her first trip. And the Friday before our trip, we were going to be leaving on a Wednesday. The Friday before the trip, it was St. Patrick's Day. And I just remember being at work and I just immediately got a sense that something was wrong.
Oh, shit.
And it was one of those moments where I'm like, okay, what is this feeling? Is this something in me? Is this something in my mind? Am I worried about something like regarding the trip? Did I forget to pack something? Did I forget to finish something at work? Mm-hmm. And then I quickly realized, no, this is an internal, something is like impending doom wrong. And so I got nervous. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Am I kind of sensing there's something wrong with somebody else? Or no, is this actually me? And then it's, again, going through that shock of, no, it's something in my body. I can feel it. Mm-hmm. So I finish out my shift at work. I really shouldn't have, but I finished out my shift at work and was like, okay, I called my husband. I said, I'm going to the hospital. And he was like, why? Like, because again, we had known for 2 weeks I was pregnant.
Right.
And I said, I'm going to the hospital. Something just doesn't feel right. And he was like, okay, like you feel sick? And I was like, I literally can't tell you and pinpoint what it is. I just feel like something's wrong and I'm scared it's something with the baby. Yeah. And he was like, okay, like, go. I've got Gemma. Don't even worry about us. I was supposed to go and help my family with something while they were celebrating with St. Patrick's Day. And I couldn't even call my mom because I was going to break. Yeah. And so I was just like, I texted her and I'm like, hey, I'm so sorry to do this last minute. I'm not going to be able to make it. I have to go handle something real quick. And of course, she tries calling me, like, what's wrong with my baby? Like, I don't act. Well, I don't act like that. That's way out of character for me. So, because you can ask Christina, I'm there early and on time. And if I'm even going to be a minute late, I let her know 10 minutes before that even happens. Yes. So, like, I'm not the last minute cancellation kind of person. So she's freaking out. I literally couldn't answer the phone because I am like freaking out in the hospital, just sitting there waiting for someone to take me back from triage. And I'm just bawling because like I could just feel, I didn't know how to explain it to anybody. But when they were like, okay, so what brings you in today? Hi, I think I'm losing my baby. And like, what do you say to that? Like, I mean, the poor receptionist, her face was like, wait, you're pregnant? Because I wasn't very far along. I wasn't like obviously showing or anything. And I was just like, I think I'm losing my baby. And she was like, well, okay, the women's center's closed. And I'm like, that's why I'm at the ER. Like, that's why I'm here.
And a lot of the women's centers won't take pregnant women under
8 to 10 weeks.
It's under certain ones do under 18 weeks. You cannot go into the center. You're literally diverted to the ER until
they're like at a viability.
Until they're at a viable state, which happens at 24 weeks is what we are told, but babies can and have survived up, I think it's up to 21 weeks.
The most successful
one was 21.
The most successful
It's
one.
very rare that happens, but
it's happened though.
It's happened.
Well, and so again, we were projecting that I was around the 8 to 10 week mark, possibly as much as 12 at that point. But I wasn't confident in that. I was thinking it was more the 8 to 10. And they didn't have like a women's unit to take me to, so they took me to pediatric. So, so they took me in to get the ultrasound. So I went and got the ultrasound. Then they moved me into pediatric, and they were like, okay, how do you tell this woman she's losing her baby? So they came in, the doctor who told me her bedside manner, to this day, I'm so incredibly grateful she was on the clock, because I've had instances at other offices where I didn't have the best bedside manner from people. That's a whole other story for a whole other time. But she was absolutely amazing. She sat down with me. She said, hey, do you have anybody with you? And that's when I knew it was bad. As soon as they say, hey, is there anybody with you? And I just remember kind of going numb and just blurting out, well, no, I'm by myself. And she was like, okay, like, is there anyone that you might want to call? And I was like, well, my husband, who's home with our autistic 2-year-old. And I was like, or at that time, autistic 5-year-old. And I was like, no, like, it would just be more chaotic trying to bring her in here and having a reality discussion. Right. So I was like, not in a good way. I said, I can get him on the phone. And she was like, no, I wouldn't want to say it over the phone. And she's like, we can confirm you are pregnant. Because I hadn't had formal confirmation yet, because it was it was so early. They don't do the confirmation until after a couple months.
Yeah, it's after. So typically when you become pregnant, when you are at 8 weeks, they usually set you up for an appointment to come in to take a blood test and to take a urine test to confirm that you are pregnant. And then it follows up a couple of weeks after.
Yeah, 10 to 12 to get an ultrasound. So, so she's like, we can confirm based on testing that you are pregnant. She goes, however, based on the ultrasound, the heart rate is too low. And she's like, so your baby at this point should have roughly like 45 to 50 beats per minute. We're at sub 30. So she's like, and it through tracing was already starting to even slow at that rate.
Oh, God.
So she said, it's probably going to be a few days before there's no heartbeat. But at this point, there's not really a way for baby to come back unless there's an absolute miracle. And I just remember I was literally sitting on the bed just shaking. And she gave me the best but also worst hug of my life, of having somebody just sit there and just be there to comfort me. And she waited for me to like let her go. She didn't try to pull away. She wanted to make sure that I was comforted in that moment, because I was alone. And I'm hearing children literally in the rooms next to me giggling and laughing, and like the nurses trying to keep their spirits up. And I'm trying not to cry too loud because I don't want to scare those poor kids. And, you know, there's a million things going on. And she was like, I am so sorry that I have to be the one to tell you and that you're here on your own. And she was like, but she's like, I'm going to get you your appointment for Monday to follow up with the OB. We'll do another confirmation and we'll see where things are at. And so I went home. I stopped by my parents.
Drove home by yourself.
Yeah. So I went out into the parking lot and just bawled, because this is now the second time.
Right.
Yeah. And I was just like, at that point, it's, again, totally blaming myself of what's wrong with my body? Why can't I do what I literally am made and created to do? Like, why is my body failing me? We want this so bad. What it is something I did. And just going through just this constant badgering of myself of, you know, what could I have done different? What did I possibly do that is making this happen again? Yeah. Do I have a condition? Do I have something going on where I just don't know? And it's you know, making things hostile. So that was not a fun period of time. But yeah, so I drove first over to my parents' house because it was on my way home, and because they were all scared. They're all blowing up my phone. My dad and my sister are blowing up my phone, and everyone's like, "What is the matter?" And I was like, "I'm gonna stop by mom and dad's real quick." Like, okay, we're all here. You know, my sisters were both there at the time, and I walk in and they're like, what is happening? Because again, this is completely out of character for me. And I explain, I said, what I'm about to tell you, I need you to take a beat before you respond to it. And I was like, because I need to get all of it out, but it's going to take me a minute. And they were like, okay, you know, they were very respectful. And I was like, I'm pregnant, but, and it was that immediate, like everyone's like, but there's a but.
Yeah.
And so I was like, but I'm losing the baby again. And they just, again, they all came and surrounded me. They, you know, were hugging me, praying over me, trying to both bring me comfort, but praying for a miracle because you don't want to lose hope. Yeah. If there's any, you want to hold on to it. Right. And so, a profoundly awful but beautiful moment at the same time of them being able to come together and support me. Mm-hmm. And just being able to accept love in that moment where I felt like the most just disgusting, awful thing.
And that's the hardest part. Yeah. In those moments when you're told that you can't come back from this worst thing, you're in a time period where you're either by yourself or you're with one other person. Mm-hmm. And you're now having to think, I have to process what's going on, but I also have to process how to tell everybody.
Yes. Well, and the level of, especially with being like more empathetic, is knowing how that's going to affect other people and knowing that you're going to hurt them, even inadvertently. Mm-hmm. But in order for people to love you back, you have to be willing to open up and be honest and fair with them. So I had called my husband on my way over to my parents because he literally his first words were, "Are you losing the baby?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "There's nothing we can do." And I was like, "No, it's way too early. It's all we can do is pray." And he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna get Gemma to bed, and then when you get home, like I'm here for you. What do you need me to prepare?" And I was just like, "Just you, be ready." Yeah. A nice comfort movie just in the background, might not hurt, but I was like, I do need to go tell them. I said, because they're all freaked out right now. Yeah. So I went and told them. I told them I was like, I appreciated everything that they were doing, but I needed to go home and be with Rory, my husband. And so they understood and they were like, "Okay, just you tell us when you're ready, if you need to have any discussion or anything and how we can help." And I was like, any help that you can help, especially with Gemma at the time, like that would be amazing. If Rory and I could even just have an evening where we can just process everything. But that was something we'd figure out.
And then a little later, she had contacted me and we went through it all again. And we went through, the one thing that I tell everybody that comes to me that has loss, knowing from my own personal grief and my own personal experience, is in the first 5 years of after losing my daughter, I blamed myself for 5 years. Mm-hmm. And it took me that long to realize that it wasn't my fault. And whenever somebody comes to me, I make sure that they know that you did everything you possibly could to save or to be there, not to do anything wrong. And this is not your fault. This is out of your hands. And just making sure that they know, because that grief, that blame, that guilt, it weighs the heaviest. It is the heaviest thing to bear.
I mean, we've talked about it, literally feels like it's eating away at your soul. Yes. Yeah. Like you become almost a completely new person after, excuse me, after experiencing loss at that level. So I had gone home. We were able to, be there for each other, and around the 1 month or so mark afterwards, I finally got to the point, because we were starting to get more and more questions from family of, "Oh, are you going to have any more kids?" Which they didn't know. Well, yeah. So they're just looking at us having a 5-year-old at the time. Okay, so are you guys going to have more kids? We know Gemma's a little more, but is that something that you're interested in? And I finally got to the point, I didn't want to have a dark heart about it towards people, because again, they don't know what my experience is if I don't talk to them about it. So I had a very open discussion with extended family and friends, and I was more public with it on social forums, where I was just like, "Hey, here's where we are in our journey. What I need is to stop being asked if and when we are going to have children. I don't think it's an appropriate question for people, because you do not know what someone is going through. You don't know if they've already looked at IVF or adoption, if they've had their own losses, if they're scared to go through with that kind of stuff. No one should feel like they're pressured.
They have some sort of medical condition that
prevents them
from becoming pregnant. And just those simple words that people think are so innocent to ask come so heavily loaded.
Oh, and it's sharp as a knife.
Very heavily loaded question. And I know people mean it out of the goodness of their heart.
And natural curiosity, that's very, very fair in that regard. But if it's coming out of like, oh, this is what you were supposed to do next in your life, like in your lifetime of, okay, you're hitting these milestones in life, you get married, you have kids, you do like, like if that's what you're thinking, it's understandable where you're coming from, but at the same time, maybe giving a little more thought into asking those kind of prodding questions where it is a very personal question.
You're listening to Conversations with Rich Bennett. We'll be right back. I have to tell you about one of our community's best resources, Hartford's Heart magazine. If you're all about living local, from the stories and events to the businesses that make Harco special, this is your go-to magazine. It's literally Harford County's only truly local lifestyle magazine, connecting you with everything happening right here at home. Each issue is packed with community events, local eats, fun things to do, spotlights on neighborhood businesses, and stories that capture the heartbeat of our county, from Fallston to Havre de Grace and Bel Air to Powellsville. And best of all, you'll find it for free at hundreds of spots all across Harford County, restaurants, shops, libraries, and more. Or read the interactive digital edition anytime online. So support local, stay connected, and keep it local with Hartford's Heart magazine. Check them out at harfordsheart.com.
Pregnancy itself is not cookie cutter.
No.
It's not. And loss itself, it's its own entity. And to try and define loss and pregnancy together, it's very, very difficult. And because you're combating grief, you're combating loss, you're combating things that you were told your entire life that you should be able to do, that this is an easy process. You see it. Media puts it in your face consistently. It's there. It's always there. And it's something that when and if you do go through a loss, it becomes a new and different part of you. It becomes something that you have to grow with and adapt to, because you live in a new world where the filter of innocence is gone. You have this new look that, it can happen to me. It has happened to me, instead of just being so blessed to be able to not have to suffer through loss. And we get to that point where sometimes we are envious of that ignorance is bliss. We have families who've never suffered loss before, and they get to live out their lives the way that they've always dreamed of. But we're 1 out of 4. And that's not rare. That's very common. And to have to be able to always walk on eggshells is very hard, and have to balance normal life because life continuously moves around us. And we're walking in our own weird, like, alternate universe compared to everybody else, coexist.
Yeah, that's a really great way to put it, because it, like I was sharing, so I don't feel like I'm necessarily super young, but I know compared to others, I'm in my younger 30s. But with I'm getting head shakes over here.
You're not.
No, she's getting them from me.
Yes, not for me. It's just,
But the life experience that I've already had up to my age is profound compared to a lot of people of my age. That can be really hard when it comes to relating to others. That can be very hard for those who are just now getting to the point where they're considering or have started to get married, and they're starting to have those kind of discussions. We were some of the first of our friends to even have children. So not only to have a child, but then to suffer 2 losses, not immediately, but like when we have actually been trying to grow our family.
It does feel really, like immediately.
Oh, yeah. It does. It feels like it's like, why? Again. And so, we got really, really fortunate that a few months after that loss, which they confirmed that following week, just to kind of go back to that, they had confirmed the following week there was no heartbeat. They said, your body's going to start processing things. We can do some stuff to try to help, but it's at your comfort level. So, me and my amazing team, we set up a medical plan of, okay, how are we going to handle this? I wanted to do things a bit more naturally, just so that way I had less complications and less risk if we did decide to try again.
Right.
So I remember being on the table when they confirmed everything, and I was like, I was in such a state of just complete separation from what I was physically going through, that mentally just I know it was to protect myself, but I remember just blurting out, well, can I still go to Florida?
Yeah. You have to compartmentalize sometimes.
I'm like, can I still go to Florida? I'm like, because in my mind, it's that one side of like, I know what's happening, but I'm disassociating from what's really happening right now to, well, I have good, happy memories of being there. So I want to get to that place.
Right.
Because that's where, we started building our lives together. That's where I know I can go find something that's going to make me happy when I am right now at my lowest. Yeah. And, happiest place on earth. So it was one of those things where I was like, well, can I still like get on a plane? Am I okay to do that? And I think I kind of shocked my poor doctor. Like, she was like, there's nothing stopping you. You can process it in your living room. You can process it on a beach. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
When we talk about loss, especially from pregnancy and infancy, we go through this trauma. It's very much similar to PTSD. And if it's not categorized as PTSD, it needs its own other wording. Yeah. But we go into shock.
Yeah.
And we start to say things that don't necessarily make sense. But in that moment, it makes sense to us because we can't disassociate what's happening and what's not happening.
Well, and like I said, I know it was like psychologically, it was my body trying to find comfort in the situation at all of, okay, but if I can get there, maybe I'll be okay. Right. Okay, if I can get down there, I can take my mind off of things. Yeah. Okay, if I go down there, I can go be around my friends and stuff that are still down there, and like they can be there for me, and I can be there for them. And there were all these different elements, but like to this day, if I could go back in my life and like erase one conversation, I would not ask her that question because in hindsight, I'm like, I probably looked like this awful woman who's sitting there worried about her vacation. But oh my gosh, because I feel so guilty.
She's like, this is what happened.
But I don't know why I said it. Like, I don't know why I said it.
You're on the table. Did they have you on medication or whatever?
No.
Oh, no?
I was just in shock. Oh. I was so in shock and just trying to, like, you are trying to make sense of something that doesn't make sense in that moment. It's like when somebody comes in, like, not to be like graphic, but like if somebody comes in missing a limb, they're like, here's my hand, like how do you process something that your brain isn't really comprehending?
It's like, and I'm glad you brought up that analogy of the missing limb. So it's like phantom pain, but in a different way.
Yeah, kind of, where it's like my brain is trying to protect myself emotionally because I could understand on a level. I could understand what was happening to me. On another level, my body's going, how can we make this better? How can I not feel this hurt or this pain or this suffering? How can I get away from it all?
Yeah.
It's like your body goes into autopilot.
Yeah.
And then only the things that pick up that are relevant within before it happened come through. So, when I was going through the loss with Ariella, I was, you think like, this can't be happening. No, I have a baby. Like, we have a baby shower. We have this. These are the things.
Yeah. You go back to levels of reality.
You cling on to those moments where they mean nothing at that point, but you're so focused on those moments because they're separated, because your brain has separated you from trauma and realizing and real life, right? Trauma in that moment and things that you don't associate with the trauma.
And like one of the things that I know I've shared before too is that that weekend that I was having loss, so before they did the confirmation that there was no heartbeat, that Sunday following that St. Patrick's Day, I literally could feel the moment it happened. I don't know how else to describe it other than I was resting because the doctor said to rest, not to overdo it. Like, there's no reason to, even if it is happening, there's no reason to overexert myself because my body's going to have to process a lot with the loss in general. And that Sunday, I felt the exact moment that it happened, and I just started bawling. And my poor husband, he did everything in his power to try to make me feel comfortable, to try to be with me, to keep our daughter from like trying to climb, you know, because she wanted to, and that was part of what I was saying with being empathetic. Like she would come over and she'd like try to lay on me and she'd try to hug on me and she'd like sit there and she'd bury her head into my stomach. Like I genuinely think she knew that I was pregnant, and that was how she knew how to describe it in that moment. And he was trying to keep her not like away from me for like comfort, but just so that way I didn't have that overstimulation moment of like, I need like feeling like I'm getting crawling out of my skin. Cause there was already that level of like, you don't want to have to be there. You don't want to have to be processing it. You already want that disassociation. So you don't have to feel that pain anymore. And like when I went in that morning, I went as their first appointment that they had available that Monday morning, and they confirmed and everything. So it was a lot. We did wind up still going on the trip. I had been planning to tell my family while we were down there. But I did tell them before we went down there, and they were all like, we'll reschedule, like we'll try to figure it out. Like, you know, and I was like, no,
it's for Gemma.
It's for her. I don't want to take away from her experience. We are going down to celebrate her birthday, and I want to go make happy memories, because I don't want this time to be a time where all I think about is what made me sad and miserable and how it ruined and stole joy that we could all have as a family. Yeah. It was a lot to process. And
Kaitlyn's story, like some do have that rainbow at the end, but there are a lot that don't. Yeah. There are a lot of families that aren't able to go that same route, that others get that chance to have a moment where they do have a child after a loss, or they do have multiple children after a loss. We see it all the time within our organization, where we even have different little things that people can relate to, where I'm at my journey of life where I've had enough. I have a child and I'm happy with that. I'm going through IVF, or I felt like in my journey, enough is enough and I can't do this anymore, because everybody's journey through loss is different. Yeah. No matter how much we go through similar things, everybody's journey is different.
Well, and so part of that too for our journey, we went on the family vacation. We came back home. I rested for a while. Started really considering, okay, are we really going to keep trying? Are we going to have any more children, or do we just want to be done? Because it felt like there was just literal parts of me that were just gone, that I will never get back. I'll never be able to access again, and will forever be always just out of reach for me. Knowing that, okay, how do we want to proceed? And then our rainbow baby decided that she was coming to Earth one way or the other. And we found out we were pregnant with her around the 4th of July.
Oh, wow.
So it was a lot sooner than we had planned. And I think literally like a week before we found out, we were finally like, okay, yeah, I think we want to one more time. We'll give it one more shot, and then if that doesn't work, we will look at adoption or alternate options. If even foster care or something. Like there was going to be, you know, another way that we'd be able to grow our family. It just might not be between the two of us. And so we found out around the 4th of July that I was pregnant. We were very excited and so incredibly scared.
I bet.
Well, and at that point, that's my 4th pregnancy, and I only had one child with me, so at the time. So it was terrifying the entire time. I was considered high risk the entire pregnancy because of the complications that I'd had, not just with Gemma's birth, but then with the losses. So I was being monitored weekly. Like normally you go in, it's like, okay, for the first few months, like once a month, we'll check in on you, check on heartbeat, check on baby, make sure measurements are good. I was literally in the office starting off, it was every 2 weeks. And then I went to every week about 18 weeks in.
Wow.
So they had me under close monitoring. And then towards the end, I technically was bedridden. I will say I wasn't the best patient, and I did continue to work like right until I popped. But it was because I felt like I could, and my job was very accommodating. They were amazing about the situation because they understood.
And the good thing is you felt like you could.
Yes.
You didn't feel like
no,
you
I'd
did
never
the
at
other
once.
times.
Yeah, never at once did I feel like I was putting anything at risk. I always kind of joke too, around the 5-month mark, started to have the discussion with my OB about, okay, what are we going to do for family planning after the birth? And I remember my sentence being, no matter the outcome of this birth, this is my plan.
Right.
And she was like, well, like, you're fine now. Like, we're past viability. And I was like, for my mental sake, I have to say it this exact way.
Yeah.
Because God forbid anything happened between now and birth, I'd lose my mind.
Yeah.
And so I was like, so to protect, I was like, I know what I'm doing. I was like, I am protecting myself, but I need to say it this exact way. And she was like, okay, that's fair.
Unfortunately, a lot of when you do go to the doctors and when you do see the nurses and things like that, you're just a rotating number.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They see so many patients that are pregnant and so many patients that come through their door that it ends up becoming this just cookie cutter experience where if you're following along, you should be okay.
Yeah.
But we know on the other side that there are so many probabilities of something going wrong that it makes it so insanely scary.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's why I always say ignorance is bliss when it comes to being meeting someone who has not experienced it, because they don't know what it's like to be on the other side.
Right.
They don't know that trauma, that grief, that they may know it from a friend or another,
or from a
family
textbook,
member,
but
right,
it's not.
textbook,
Yeah, it's not the
but
same
the
as experiencing
feeling of that is not there.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things too that I always say is, like, during that 4th pregnancy, I genuinely felt like I could not breathe. It was like I was underwater holding my breath, like trying to keep the bubbles in of just, okay, if I can get through this next milestone, if I can get through this next milestone, if I can get through this next appointment, if I can get through this blood test, if I can get through the glucose test, if I can get through these, then we'll get to being okay. Or, hey, now we hit viability. Awesome. So at minimum, like, they can save her life if something were to happen.
Yeah.
So we knew it was a girl. And I was like, up until I heard her crying in the OR, because I wound up with her having an emergency C-section, just like with her sister. Like I said, I had 4 1 in a million pregnancies. They both had emergency cesarean sections. So I'm in the OR, strapped down to the table, and they say, okay, she's out. Like, they're communicating to the team, and I was like, my first words are, is she okay?
Yeah.
Because I didn't hear anything, and then, like, it felt like an eternity, but in reality, it was maybe 2 or 3 seconds afterwards. And once they got her lungs cleared, she started crying, and I bawled.
Oh,
I just started bawling because she's here. She's alive. I did it. I didn't fail again.
Do you know with Cristiano? So Cristiano is my rainbow baby who came after Ariella. Do you know with Cristiano, I didn't feel that sense of relief until after he turned 1.
Wow.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, it was after he turned 1.
Oh my gosh.
After he was out of the SIDS.
The SIDS.
The SIDS mark, I felt that relief.
That, and I had a secondary with Riley as well with that, of like, once we hit, same thing about like 12 to 14 months, I finally was like, okay, she's fine. But no, I didn't know with Cristiano. But yeah, so like literally I felt like I couldn't breathe. And then I've been working on this in therapy, but also processing, I felt like I stole my own joy during the pregnancy, because I felt like I couldn't enjoy the full aspect of being pregnant because I was so terrified of loss. And so that's a whole other discussion too, of, letting go of the terror, but still living in a level of, okay, we can be accepting of what reality might be, but not letting it be a thief of joy.
Yeah.
And so that's something that if I could go back, I'd love to be able to tell myself, like, even if it's not okay, don't lose these moments that you do get to enjoy with her. Like, I'd get so excited when, like, I'd feel her movement. I'd get scared when I didn't feel her movement, or, like, there was just all these things. There was a lot of up and down, up and down, up and down. And I really feel like towards the end, that was part of the reason why my body was having so much trouble, was because of just this, like this tightrope that I felt like I was just pulling around even my own self, like trying to keep everything together
Yeah.
until I was 100% certain that she was okay.
Wow.
So yeah, we're very, very blessed. She is a tenacious little 2-year-old. So yeah, she's a blessing. But
so after all of this, after Kaitlyn's incredible story of, you know, happiness, grief, and loss, and then happiness and dealing with loss, and just she's became one of my committee members as an anchor, and it's been such a blessing to have her as part of the Sea of Hope Foundation, because she advocates not just for herself, but for others, who know that it's okay. You can come forward and talk about it. And even if you don't want to come forward and talk about it, you don't have to. We're here.
Yeah, we'll sit in silence. If that's what you need, we will literally sit with you in silence and just let you process how you need to process, or just even just feeling less alone. Because for some of us, like I said, with my first one, I was so ashamed and scared, and I didn't know what was happening. At one point, I convinced myself it wasn't really happening and that they must have been mistaken. And, you know, coming back to terms with, again, the reality of what really did happen, being more open about it after the second one, because I was like, no, wait, like no one deserves to feel like how I have been feeling.
Right.
And so that's part of my big thing with the advocacy is it's like, I don't want anyone to feel like it didn't matter, that their pain wasn't real, or that their journey that they're either actively going through or had gone through is isolated. You know, unfortunately, there's this club that you don't want to have to be a part of, but it's good to know that there are others out there who we may not be able to fully understand, but we can be with you while you go through it.
We say that the club sucks, but the members are amazing.
Yeah.
Well, but the good thing is there is a club.
Yeah.
And we talked about this before, because there was nothing for us, for me and my wife at the time. I think there maybe
there's always like one little thing.
Yeah, one little thing.
But it, you know, again, when we talk about how it's a generational thing, about how it was always too taboo to talk about. And the newer generations are finding their voices, our voices, and we're trying to break that silence. We're trying to talk about it. Because you have to know that as much as you want to say everything is great, it's not. And there's so many times where things can go wrong, and you don't want to scare that other person or those other people. But you want them to know that if it does, we're here.
Yeah.
We're here to help. You know, we were talking about one of the things in our support groups about grief and how there's so many different levels and so many different ways that people process. And the one biggest thing that we always talk about is how the guilt and the blame, whether it's survivor's guilt, whether you start to blame yourself because you feel like your body has failed. And us as humans have that tendency where we would rather blame somebody else and channel that blame and guilt and grief to somebody else, because it takes that weight off of us. But in this instance, there is no way to do that. There's no definitive. Correct. Yeah. I mean, there are people and families that are out there that do suffer loss because of medical negligence, because of things like that. But
or medical conditions that you can't help, or genetic dispositions. Like there's a million different factors into if it can be successful or not that people they just don't discuss or care to really know about.
The other thing too, because, and you kept saying you kept blaming yourself, and I didn't even think about this until years later with me. It could have been something with the husband too.
Yeah, and there's, like I said,
I was stationed down at Camp Lejeune, and that water has.
But you know,
you never know. But you never know. You never know.
You never know.
In history, as we see throughout history, it was always the blame of the mom. It was always the blame of the woman who, when and if they ever lost a child, or there was some sort of deformative or some sort of,
it was like moral failing.
Yes, it was the woman's fault. The man never did anything wrong, but the woman did, and it's that guilt, that ancestral guilt, is continuous to this day.
That's true.
And we're so grateful that we're able to bring a voice to the situation. I mean, we had an event. I won't share any names because, you know, privacy's sake, but we had a woman who, she was in her 70s, I believe, and she said literally she had a loss 50 years ago, and never told a soul, not her husband, not a friend, not a family member, no one. For the first time, she felt comfortable to share her truth and to talk about her loss. And she just started bawling. And we were like, hey, like, are you okay? Like, how can we comfort you? And she was like, no, she's like, I'm relieved.
Yeah.
I'm relieved. I can let that go.
It's like being a ton of bricks lifted off
just
her shoulders.
literally, I mean, you literally could just see her whole demeanor change because finally someone was willing to hear her and not judge her or shame her for it. And she said, literally, she's like, both my parents are dead. She's like, I've never told my husband. And she's like, I'm going to tell him now. Like, insane.
Just being able to have that ability to share without judgment it does wonders. And one of the things that we talk about at the Sea of Hope is we want families to know, no matter when you lost your child, whether it was during pregnancy, infancy, or toddlerhood, but years ago.
Yeah.
Many, many years ago. This is not just a new thing where we have that, okay, someone suffered a loss yesterday. How do we help them? No, we want those families to know if you've suffered a loss and it was 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, it doesn't matter. Come and we'll support you in any which way you need to be supported.
Thank you for saying that, because I was going to ask you that.
No, 100%. Our goal is just to help, again, bring forth the conversation, because no one should have to go through life alone, let alone our highest and lowest moments.
Right.
It's one of those things where if you can bring more of a humanity level into the conversation, it brings more understanding. It brings more, not like acceptance in like a normal way, but like in just a accepting of a reality.
And you'll never be judged, no matter when your loss took place. It doesn't matter, because what we all know is when we meet those families who have suffered losses many years ago, is they continue to carry it with them.
Yeah.
Continue. The loss doesn't go away. A lot of the times you'll get people say, well, when will you move on from it? You never move on.
Never on. No.
And because it's been so silenced, they think that it's been moved on, but you'll meet people out of the woodwork who will say, no, I suffered a loss when I was this years. I was so many years old, and it's been 50 years now. It's been 20 years now. And my child would have been this age. And we want them to know, please come feel like you have that voice to come and talk with us. And we hold no judgment. You will not be compared to any other family that is there, whether they lost yesterday or 50 years ago.
Or if it's a single loss, like I feel like that's the other thing. A lot of people will feel guilty that they just have one, and we've got some members that have had multiples.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had two, and like it's not nearly as many as any other, but we're here. Too many. Yeah, we are here for any number, any amount, but also just if you are just needing someone to talk to, or if you want to share their story or your story, like we are here for that. That is our whole point, is we just want people to be able to have a place that they can come to that is safe, that is nurturing, that is caring, and is going to follow through on what they say they do.
Help with the physical things in the beginning.
Yeah.
We can help with bereavement boxes. We can help cover financial assistance for funeral costs, but we are in the thick of it when it comes to helping those families who need the voice, who need to share their story without having that judgment.
Yeah.
And it continues, because even like if you have another daughter, I'm sure as they get older, they're going to want to know.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have a group to help you, how you can tell them.
Oh, yeah. That's why we love doing the bereaved siblings group, is because, we can have those conversations.
Yeah.
It's so cute to see, because they all get together and they have this one thing in common, but they can be their true selves.
Right.
Even though kids are their true selves, they won't get that follow-up question of, well, why are you talking about your sibling who's not here? I have my son who's going...
Or how to handle it when they do get those questions, like, especially as they get into elementary school. I mean, kids can be kind of brutal,
They can.
You think?
Yeah, just a little bit.
My kindergartner, who is now a first grader, he had the kids in his class ask him, and because of the group, he was able to talk to them and tell them, I had a sister that came before me. but she's not here.
Mm-hmm.
And just to be able to have those tools, it strengthens them vocally to talk about it rather than to just keep it behind closed doors.
The emotional intelligence too, to be able to, when you do face people who, because they're in their mind trying to justify a situation or get out of an awkward situation, people will say things that they don't necessarily mean, and it comes across the wrong way. But having the tools to be able to combat that in a non-aggressive manner, is good for them too. And they can, they have people who do understand, but then equipping them with the right things to say or how to handle it, or knowing when it's okay to back off and to quit, and not back off because like they're trying to, but just they know it's not going to be able to progress.
We try to think of all the little details that happen in that first moment so that when those families who do suffer a loss at the hospital, they're greeted with things that can help them leaving the hospital, not just leaving with a box. We came up with a checklist of a timeline of what 1 week, 1 day, 24 hours, all the way up into a year, what it may look like for them. So it softens the blow a little bit. But then we also provide resources for those families who do have other children to help them explain to their children what has happened.
Or like why they're not bringing their brother or sister home or, those things. So we'll offer stuffed animals, books that are on childhood grief to help kind of explain it.
Those
and that
are
way,
important.
Hugely.
We pick 3 specific books that are age appropriate in 3 different age categories so that when the families do suffer a loss and have other children, they can take this, because it was a resource that we didn't have. We had to come home and explain to our 4-year-old why his sister wasn't coming home, and it broke me, and I was already dealing with losing her.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
so these
are
tools
whole other element.
These were just tools and resources that we know were needed, and that can start there.
And speaking of tools and resources, because everything costs money, Sea of Hope Foundation is a 501c3.
It is.
Tell everybody the website so they know where to go for help and also to make a donation.
Absolutely. So the website is www.seaofhopefoundation.org. You could visit the website if you're searching for help, if you need just some sort of comfort, or if you'd like to help contribute to helping those families where it starts at the hospital. You can make a donation through our website as well. You can see our events that are coming up, our support group schedule, and apply for the financial assistance for funeral services, or even when our scholarship program opens up in September, you be able to apply there.
And eventually, hear stories like Kaitlyn's.
Correct.
Kaitlyn, thank you so much. Christina, always good seeing you.
Always good seeing you too.
Even though it's only the second time.
It's only the second time.
Today's conversation was a powerful reminder that pregnancy and infant loss may be more common than many realize, but every family experiences it differently. Kaitlyn shared the heartbreak of losing 2 pregnancies, the guilt and self-blame she carried, and the fear that followed her into another pregnancy. She also reminded us that even in the middle of grief, support can make an incredible difference. Sometimes that means offering guidance or resources, and sometimes it simply means sitting beside someone in silence so they know they are not alone. Kaitlyn's journey eventually brought the joy of her rainbow baby, but she was honest about how difficult it was to embrace that pregnancy while waiting for something to go wrong. Her story reminds us that grief and happiness can exist together, that loss has no expiration date, and that healing does not require forgetting. Through Christina and the Sea of Hope Foundation, families can find compassion, practical assistance, support groups, resources for grieving siblings, and a safe place to share their stories without judgment. Whether your loss happened yesterday or even 50 years ago, your child mattered. Your grief is real, and your voice deserves to be heard. I want to thank Kaitlyn for trusting us with such a personal story, and Christina for continuing to create a community where families can speak openly, receive support, and carry hope alongside their grief. If this conversation reminded you of someone who may be suffering quietly, please share it with them. It may be the reassurance they need to understand that they do not have to carry this alone. Until next time, I'm Rich Bennett. Thanks for listening, and remember, every great conversation starts with someone willing to listen and someone willing to share. Now it's your turn. Join the conversation by sharing this episode, leaving a comment, or reaching out to me directly. Take care, be kind to one another, and I'll talk with you again soon.
Coming to Hartford County, Maryland this fall, the Healing Arts and Music Festival. Join us October 2nd and 3rd at Friendship Park in Abingdon for 2 unforgettable days of live music, interactive art, wellness experiences, workshops, vendors, food trucks, and community connection. Bring your friends and family and experience the energy, creativity, and magic for yourself. For more information, visit healingartsandmusic.com.